Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you'd bet your life on their loyalty? I did. For 17 years I believed in my marriage, I believed in my husband, I sacrificed my career for him. I raised his daughter like she was my own. I smiled through every business dinner, every late night, every "I'm working late, honey." I was the perfect wife, the perfect stepmother, the perfect fool. My best friend Sarah owns the most exclusive restaurant in our city. When she called me that Tuesday afternoon, her voice was shaking. "You need to see something, come alone, don't tell Marcus." I thought maybe she'd seen him with a client doing something illegal. I thought maybe he was in trouble. I never imagined the truth would be so much worse. The security footage showed him at table 12 every Tuesday for 6 months, same table, same time, but the woman across from him made my blood turn to ice, because it wasn't some secretary, it wasn't a business associate. It was his daughter, my stepdaughter, 22-year-old Emily, and the way they looked at each other made me want to vomit. The bracelet on her wrist was identical to mine, the necklace around her neck, I'd seen the charge on our credit card. "Anniversary gift for you," he'd said. He'd been buying her jewelry for months, taking her to romantic dinners, while I was at home cooking meals he never ate. This is the story of how I discovered the truth, how I planned my revenge. And how I made sure they both paid for what they did to me. My name is Carolyn, and I need to tell you what happened to me. Not because I want sympathy, though God knows I deserve it, but because I need other women to understand that sometimes, the people closest to you are the ones you should fear most. I met Marcus when I was 28. He was 35, recently divorced, and had a 7-year-old daughter named Emily. He was everything I thought I wanted: successful, charming, attentive. He owned a consulting firm that specialized in corporate acquisitions, and he had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room when he spoke to you. Our courtship was a whirlwind. Expensive dinners, weekend trips to wine country, flowers delivered to my office every Friday. I was working as a senior marketing director at a tech firm, and I loved my job. I was good at it. I'd worked my way up from an entry-level position, and I was proud of what I'd accomplished. But Marcus had other ideas. 6 months into our relationship, he proposed, and with the proposal came a request. "Emily needs stability, she needs a mother figure. Would you consider cutting back on work, maybe going part-time?" I should have seen the red flag. I should have recognized the control disguised as concern. But I was in love, and he made it sound so reasonable. "You'll still have your career," he promised, "just a better work-life balance." So I said yes to the proposal, to going part-time, to becoming a stepmother. We married 3 months later in a beautiful ceremony overlooking the Pacific. Emily was the flower girl, and she looked adorable in her white dress, scattering rose petals down the aisle. I remember thinking, this is my family now. I'm going to make this work. The first year was an adjustment. Emily was sweet but understandably cautious. Her mother had abandoned them when she was 5, just disappeared one day, leaving a note saying she couldn't handle motherhood. Marcus had full custody, and Emily was clearly traumatized by the abandonment. I threw myself into being the mother she needed. I learned to braid hair and pack lunches with those little notes that kids love. I attended every school play and soccer game. I helped with homework and stayed up late making elaborate birthday cakes from scratch. Marcus encouraged all of it. "You're so good with her," he'd say, kissing my forehead. "She's lucky to have you." My part-time work arrangement gradually became less and less. "The company's restructuring," my boss told me apologetically. "We need people who can commit full-time." I understood, I didn't fight it. Marcus made plenty of money and he assured me we'd be fine. "Focus on Emily and the home," he said. "That's just as important as any career." So I became a full-time housewife and stepmother. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I could always go back to work once Emily was older. The years passed. Emily grew from a shy 7-year-old into a beautiful, confident teenager. I was there for everything: first period talk, first heartbreak, college applications. I loved her like she was my own daughter. I really did. Marcus and I settled into a comfortable routine. He worked long hours, often until 8 or 9 at night, but he was building the business and I understood. He traveled frequently for client meetings. Sometimes he'd be gone for 3 or 4 days at a time. "You're the rock that keeps us stable," he'd tell me when he got home, exhausted. "I couldn't do this without you." I believed him. Emily went off to college at UCLA, majoring in business. Marcus was so proud. "She's following in my footsteps," he beamed. She came home most weekends that first year, and we'd have family dinners where she'd tell us about her classes and her friends. Then during her junior year, something shifted. She started coming home less frequently. When she did visit, she and Marcus would have these long, private conversations in his study. Just talking business, he'd explain when I'd bring them coffee. She wants to join the firm after graduation. I was thrilled. It felt like our family was really coming together. Emily graduated last spring, summer come Lord. We threw a big party at our house. All of Marcus's business associates came, along with Emily's friends and our neighbors. I spent 3 days preparing food, making sure everything was perfect. During the party, I remember watching Marcus and Emily standing together near the piano, both holding champagne glasses, both laughing at some private joke. They looked so similar, same dark hair, same sharp features, same confident posture. I felt a surge of love for both of them. "You've done an amazing job with her," our neighbor Patricia said, touching my arm. "She's turned into such a lovely young woman." "Thank you," I said, glowing with pride. "She's pretty special." If only I'd known. After graduation, Emily moved back home temporarily while she started working at Marcus's firm. "It makes sense," Marcus said. "She can save money for a few months before getting her own place, and it'll be nice having her around again, won't it?" Of course I agreed. I was happy to have her home. I'd missed her terribly while she was at college. She started working full-time in August. Marcus mentored her personally, teaching her the business. They'd leave together every morning at 7:30, both impeccably dressed, both carrying leather briefcases. They looked like a power duo. They'd come home together too, usually around 7 or 8, sometimes later. "Big client meeting ran long," Marcus would explain, kissing my cheek while I pulled dinner from the oven for the 3rd time. The food dried out from being kept warm too long. Emily would breeze past with barely a hello, heading straight to her room. "Exhausted," she'd call over her shoulder. "This business is brutal." I understood. I'd worked in the corporate world. I knew how demanding it could be. But then small things started bothering me. Like how Marcus bought Emily a bracelet for closing her first deal. A delicate gold chain with a tiny diamond. It was beautiful, expensive. 2 weeks later, he gave me an identical bracelet, just because. "I saw it and thought of you," he said. But I'd seen the jewelry store receipt on his desk before he gave it to me. The date was the same day he'd given one to Emily. He'd bought them together. I told myself it meant nothing. Maybe he just really liked that style. Maybe he'd bought them as a set, got a discount. Then there was the Tuesday thing. Every Tuesday evening, Marcus would come home late, usually around 10. "Weekly client dinner," he'd explain. "Same group every week, it's a standing meeting." I never questioned it, why would I? But then one Tuesday, Emily also wasn't home for dinner. When I texted her, she responded, "Dinner with friends from college, be home late." Just a coincidence, I thought. Except it happened the next Tuesday too, and the one after that. For 3 months, every single Tuesday, both Marcus and Emily were out for dinner. Never together according to them, always separate plans. I started feeling uneasy, though I couldn't articulate why. There was just something off about the whole situation. The way they'd both come home around the same time, usually within 15 minutes of each other. The way they'd both be in unusually good moods, almost giddy. The way they'd started having more of those private conversations in Marcus's study. The door closed, voices low. Once, I walked past and heard Emily laugh, not her normal laugh but something different, softer, almost flirtatious. No, I pushed the thought away immediately. That was crazy, that was sick. She was his daughter. My daughter. But the unease grew. I started noticing other things. Like how Marcus had started buying Emily expensive gifts seemingly every week. Designer handbags, expensive perfume, jewelry. "She's doing so well at the firm," he'd say. "I want to recognize her hard work." But he'd never been that generous with her before, and he'd stopped buying me gifts almost entirely. Like how they'd started dressing similarly. Not obviously, just subtle coordination. If Marcus wore blue, Emily wore blue. If she wore gold jewelry, he'd wear his gold watch. Like how Emily had started asking me weird questions. "Do you think Daddy's happy?" she asked once while we were folding laundry together. "Like, really happy?" "Of course," I'd said, confused. "Why would you ask that?" She'd shrugged, avoiding my eyes. No reason, just wondering. Another time, "Do you ever regret not having kids of your own?" The question had strung. "I consider you my own," I'd said quietly. She'd looked at me then, and I swear I saw something like guilt flash across her face. But it was gone so quickly I thought I'd imagined it. Then came the credit card statement. I was organizing our bills, something I did every month, when I noticed a charge from Tiffany & Co. for $3,200. That was a lot for one of Marcus's recognition gifts for Emily. I called the store pretending to be confirming a recent purchase. The sales associate was happy to help. "Oh yes, Mr. Hartley," she said warmly. "He's one of our favorite customers. That beautiful necklace for the young lady, she was thrilled with it. They're such a lovely couple." My blood turned to ice. Couple. "Oh, I'm sorry, I assumed. They just seemed so close the way they were looking at each other. He was so attentive, helping her try on different pieces. Are they father and daughter? They have such chemistry, I just thought." As I hung up, my hands were shaking, my mind was racing. Couple chemistry. No. I was being paranoid. The sales associate had just misread the situation. Marcus was affectionate with Emily because he was a loving father, that was all. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. That night I asked Marcus about the necklace. "Oh, that," he said casually, not even looking up from his laptop. "Yeah, Emily closed the Davidson account. Huge deal for her career. I wanted to do something special." "The sales clerk said you two seemed like a couple," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He looked at me then, his expression unreadable. "That's ridiculous. Why would she think that?" "I don't know, Marcus, you tell me." He closed his laptop slowly. "Caroline, are you seriously suggesting something inappropriate? She's my daughter." "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just telling you what the clerk said." Then the clerk was mistaken. His voice was cold now, and I don't appreciate the implication. "After everything you've seen me do for this family, for Emily, you're going to question my relationship with my own daughter." I felt terrible immediately. He was right, I was being horrible. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I don't know why I said that, I've just been feeling off lately." His expression softened. "Maybe you should see someone, talk to a therapist. These thoughts aren't normal, honey." The way he said it made me feel crazy, like I was the one with the problem. Maybe I was. I tried to let it go, I really did. But 2 weeks later I was cleaning Emily's bathroom, something I still did even though she was 22, because old habits die hard, and I found something that made my stomach drop. Birth control pills, not the regular kind, the morning after kind. 3 empty packages in her bathroom trash, all dated within the last 2 months. My hands started shaking again. Emergency contraception is for when regular birth control fails, or when you have unprotected sex unexpectedly. 3 times in 2 months. Emily didn't have a boyfriend. She'd broken up with her college boyfriend over a year ago and hadn't dated anyone since. I'd asked her about it just last month, worried she was too focused on work. "I'm just not interested in dating right now," she'd said. "The right person will come along when they're supposed to." But she was having sex with someone she needed emergency contraception for, multiple times. Someone she was keeping secret. I felt sick. I told myself it was none of my business. She was an adult, she could have a private sex life. But the secrecy bothered me. Why hide it? Why not just tell me she was seeing someone? Unless... No. I couldn't even complete the thought, it was too horrible. I put the trash back exactly as I'd found it and walked out of her bathroom. That night I barely slept. My mind kept spinning, putting together pieces that couldn't possibly fit together. The Tuesday dinners, the matching jewelry, the gifts, the private conversations, the credit card clerk's comment about them being a couple, the emergency contraception. It couldn't be what I was thinking, it just couldn't. Marcus was her father. But he wasn't her biological father, a small voice in my head whispered. He'd adopted Emily after her mother left, there was no blood relation. I hated myself for even thinking it, I felt disgusting. I needed proof that I was wrong. I needed to see with my own eyes that Marcus was having his Tuesday dinners with actual clients, that Emily was actually going out with friends. The next Tuesday, I decided to follow them. I told Marcus I was going to a book club meeting. I told Emily I had dinner plans with an old work friend. Then I waited. Marcus left at 6:30, dressed impeccably in a charcoal suit. "See you later, honey," he called. Emily left 10 minutes later, wearing a black dress I'd never seen before. It was elegant, sophisticated, the kind of dress you wear on a date. My heart was pounding as I grabbed my keys and followed her car. She drove across town to the downtown district where all the upscale restaurants were located. I stayed 3 cars back, my palms sweating on the steering wheel. She pulled into the parking garage for the Lotus, the most expensive, most romantic restaurant in the city. The kind of place Marcus used to take me for anniversaries, back when we first got married. The kind of place my best friend Sarah owned and operated. I parked and watched Emily walk into the restaurant. She looked beautiful, confident, happy. I waited 15 minutes, then walked to the restaurant myself. I was shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. Sarah was at the host stand, reviewing the reservation list. When she saw me, her face went pale. "Caroline," she breathed, "what are you doing here?" "Is Marcus here?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked stricken. "Caroline, Is he here, Sarah?" She closed her eyes. "Table 12, but Caroline, maybe you should." I didn't wait for her to finish. I walked past the host stand, past the crowded bar, toward the dining room. Table 12 was in the back corner, the romantic corner, secluded, intimate, with soft lighting and a view of the city lights through floor-to-ceiling windows. And there they were. Marcus and Emily, sitting across from each other at a table set for 2. His hand was covering hers on the table. They were leaning close, talking intimately, both smiling. As I watched, frozen in horror, Marcus lifted Emily's hand to his lips and kissed it gently. She smiled at him, not the way a daughter smiles at her father, the way a woman smiles at her lover. I must have made a sound, a gasp, a whimper, something, because Sarah was suddenly beside me, her hand on my arm. "How long?" I whispered. "Caroline, let's go to my office, please." "How long?" She was crying now. 6 months, every Tuesday, same table. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if you knew, if you had some kind of arrangement, if... "Show me," I interrupted. "Show me the security footage." We went to her office, a small room off the kitchen. She pulled up the security system on her computer, and for the next hour I watched 6 months of Tuesday dinners unfold on the screen. August 15th, Marcus and Emily sitting close, talking animatedly. Innocent enough, except for how he paid for dinner with a credit card and then kissed her hand before they left. August 22nd, same table. This time I watched him give her a small box. She opened it and smiled, the bracelet, the one he'd later given to me. She tried it on and he fastened it around her wrist. Then she got up, walked around the table and kissed him on the cheek. But the kiss lingered too long. August 29th, they held hands across the table through most of dinner, when they thought no one was watching. He'd stroke her fingers with his thumb. September 5th, the footage showed them leaving together. In the parking garage camera, I watched them get into the same car, his car. They didn't come out for 45 minutes. I felt like I was going to vomit. The footage continued through the weeks. Each dinner more intimate than the last. More retouching, more lingering glances, more time spent in the parking garage afterward. By October, they weren't even trying to hide it anymore. The footage from October 17th showed them kissing in a dark corner of the parking garage, not a fatherly kiss. A passionate, desperate kiss that made me want to scream. "Caroline, I'm so sorry," Sarah sobbed. "I didn't know what to do. I thought about calling you so many times, but I kept hoping I was wrong, that maybe they were just close, that..." "They're having an affair," I said flatly. "My husband is having an affair with his adopted daughter, the girl I raised, the girl I sacrificed my career for, my entire life for." Sarah nodded miserably. I stood up, my legs felt like water, but somehow I stayed upright. "I need copies of all this footage, every single Tuesday." "Of course, I'll put it on a drive for you." "And Sarah, don't tell them I know, don't tell them I was here." She grabbed my hand. "What are you going to do?" I looked at her, and I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest where my heart used to be. "I'm going to destroy them," I said quietly, "both of them." I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. The thought of seeing them, of pretending everything was normal, made me physically ill. Instead, I checked into a hotel and spent the night watching the security footage over and over again. Every kiss, every touch, every intimate moment, burning them into my memory, feeding the rage that was building in my chest. By sunrise, I had a plan. I went home at 7 a.m., acting like I'd been at book club and then stayed over at my friend's house because we'd had too much wine. Marcus barely looked up from his morning coffee. "Did you have fun?" he asked absently, scrolling through his phone. "It was lovely," I said, pouring myself coffee with steady hands. "Really needed that time with the girls." Emily came downstairs, dressed for work, her hair still damp from the shower. She kissed Marcus on the cheek, lingering just a second too long now that I knew what to look for, and grabbed a piece of toast. "Morning, Caroline," she said brightly. "Good morning, sweetheart," I replied, smiling at her. "Sleep well?" She had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. "Yeah, great." They left for work together, like they did every morning. I watched them drive away, then I got to work. First, I called my old boss, Linda. We'd stayed in touch over the years, exchanging Christmas cards and occasional emails. "Caroline," she said warmly, "what a lovely surprise, how are you?" "I'm well, Linda. Listen, I know this is out of the blue, but are there any positions available at the firm? I'm thinking about coming back to work." There was a pause. "Actually, yes, we just had a senior director leave for a competitor. The job is yours if you want it. When can you start?" 2 weeks, I said. "I need 2 weeks to get some personal things in order." "Perfect, I'll send over the paperwork." Second, I called a lawyer, not just any lawyer, the best divorce attorney in the state. Catherine Chen had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless. "I need to see you today," I told her assistant. "It's urgent." "Ms. Chen is fully booked today, but..." "Tell her it's about a case involving adultery between a father and his adopted daughter, with extensive video evidence. Tell her there's significant marital assets at stake." 3 minutes later, I had an appointment for that afternoon. Catherine Chen was a small, elegant woman in her 50s with steel grey hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Show me," she said, after I'd given her the basic facts. I showed her the security footage, all of it. Her expression never changed, but I saw her fingers tighten on her pen. "This is going to be ugly," she said finally. "Are you prepared for that?" "I want everything," I told her. "I don't care how ugly it gets. I want the house, I want half the business, I want alimony, I want them exposed for what they are." "The business will be tricky, Emily works there now." "I want her fired, I want her name dragged through the mud. I want everyone to know what she did." Catherine leaned back in her chair. "I like you, Caroline, we're going to get along just fine." Over the next week, Catherine put together a case that was airtight. We had the security footage, credit card receipts showing gifts he'd bought her, phone records showing thousands of texts and calls between them. Far more than normal for a father and daughter, especially considering they worked together all day. We even had hotel receipts. Apparently the parking garage wasn't always enough for them. Twice a month, Marcus would book a room at the Ritz-Carlton for business purposes. Except the room service charges showed 2 of everything, 2 entrees, 2 glasses of wine, 2 desserts. Catherine subpoenaed his calendar. On those hotel room days, Emily had also blocked off her calendar, out of office personal time. The evidence was damning. "When do you want to serve him?" Catherine asked. "I want to wait," I said. "I want one more thing first." I called a private investigator, gave him Marcus's schedule and asked him to follow them. I wanted more than security footage. I wanted photographs, current ones. The investigator came back 3 days later with a folder that made my stomach turn. Marcus and Emily at the hotel walking in together, kissing in the elevator, Marcus's hand on her lower back possessive. Emily leaving the hotel 3 hours later, her hair messed up, her dress wrinkled. The most damning photo, the 2 of them in Marcus's car parked at a scenic overlook. The photographer had used a long lens to capture them through the windshield. They were kissing, Emily practically in Marcus's lap, his hands in her hair. The timestamp showed it was taken at 2 p.m. on a Thursday, during work hours. "Perfect," Catherine said when I showed her. "We have everything we need." "There's one more thing I want to do before we file," I told her. That Sunday, I invited both of Marcus's business partners and their wives to dinner. I also invited Sarah, her husband, our neighbours Patricia and Tom, and a few other couples from our social circle. "What's the occasion?" Marcus asked when I told him about the dinner party. No occasion, I said cheerfully. I just realized we haven't entertained in ages. I miss having people over. He seemed pleased. That's my girl, this is the Caroline I fell in love with. I smiled and said nothing. I spent 3 days preparing. I made all of Marcus's favorite dishes, all of Emily's favorites. I set the table with our best china, our wedding crystal. I bought flowers and arranged them in beautiful bouquets throughout the house. I wanted everything to be perfect. The guests arrived at 7. Marcus worked the room like the charming host he'd always been, drink in hand, laughing at jokes, clapping his partners on the back. Emily looked beautiful in a blue dress. She chatted with the wives, played the role of the dutiful daughter. I played the perfect hostess, making sure everyone's glass stayed full, making sure everyone was comfortable. At 8, after appetizers and drinks, I asked everyone to gather in the living room. I just want to say a few words before dinner, I announced, smiling at my guests. Marcus looked surprised but pleased. He probably thought I was going to toast him, thank him for something. Instead, I picked up the remote control for our TV and turned it on. I want to share something with all of you, I said, still smiling. For the past 6 months I've been trying to understand some changes in my marriage. My husband working late, being distant, spending money on secret gifts. I thought maybe he was planning a surprise for me. A special trip perhaps. A renewal of our vows. Marcus's face had gone white. Caroline, what are you? I'm getting to that, honey, I said sweetly. You see, it turns out Marcus was planning something special, just not with me. I pressed play. The security footage from the Lotus filled our 85-inch TV screen. Marcus and Emily at table 12. The date stamp showed clearly, Tuesday, October 17th. The room went absolutely silent. On screen, we all watched Marcus take Emily's hand, watched him kiss it, watched them lean close and whisper to each other like lovers. This is from my friend Sarah's restaurant, I narrated calmly. Every Tuesday for 6 months, my husband and his adopted daughter have been having dinner together. Intimate dinners. I clicked to the next clip, the parking garage, Marcus and Emily kissing. Someone gasped, I think it was Patricia. Caroline's. Turn it off, Marcus said, his voice shaking. His face had gone from white to red. Turn it off right now. Why, I asked innocently. We're just getting to the good parts. Next clip, the hotel. Marcus and Emily walking in together, his arm around her waist. Emily was crying now, standing frozen in the middle of the living room. I can explain, she sobbed. It's not what it looks like. Really, I said, my voice still pleasant. Then please, enlighten us. Explain how having an affair with your married father figure is not what it looks like. He's not my father, she screamed. He adopted me, but he's not my real father, we're not related. No, but you are the child he raised, I said, and now my voice was cold. You are the child I raised, I gave up my career for you. I attended every school event, every soccer game. I taught you about periods and heartbreak and how to do your taxes. I loved you like you were my own daughter. She was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. I'm so sorry, I never meant. You never meant for me to find out, I finished. There's a difference. I turned to Marcus. He looked like he was going to be sick. I filed for divorce this morning, I told him pleasantly. The papers will be served tomorrow. I'm getting the house, half your business, and enough alimony to ensure I never have to work again, though I am going back to work because unlike you, I have integrity. My lawyer says this is one of the most clear-cut cases of adultery she's ever seen. You can't do this, he whispered. I already did. Oh, and I also sent copies of all this evidence to your business partners. I gestured to the 2 men standing in our living room with their mouths hanging open, and to your largest clients. I thought they'd be interested to know what kind of man they're doing business with. I picked up another remote and pressed play. This time it was a compilation, weeks and weeks of footage set to music. Every kiss, every intimate touch, every moment of betrayal edited together in a highlight reel. I'm also sending this to everyone we know, I said. Our friends, our neighbors, our family members, everyone gets to see what you did, both of you. Mom, please, Emily begged, dropping to her knees. Please don't do this. I'll leave, I'll never speak to him again, I'll do anything. Don't call me that, I said quietly. You lost the right to call me that the first time you kissed him. I looked around at our guests, all of them staring in horror at the screen, at Marcus, at Emily. Dinner is served, I said brightly. Please help yourselves, I'm going to a hotel. I picked up my purse, walked to the door and left my house for the last time. Behind me I could hear Emily sobbing, Marcus trying to explain, the guests erupting in shocked conversation. I got in my car, drove to the hotel, and once I was safely in my room, I finally let myself fall apart. I sobbed for hours, for my marriage, my family, my life, for the 17 years I'd given to people who didn't deserve a single day of it. But underneath the grief there was something else. Relief. And satisfaction. The next few weeks were chaos. Catherine said it was the smoothest divorce case she'd ever handled. Marcus didn't even try to fight it. He couldn't, the evidence was too damning. His business partners bought him out of the firm. They couldn't afford to have his scandal attached to their brand. He lost most of his clients. Turns out, people don't want to do business with someone who has an affair with their adopted daughter. Emily was fired, of course. No one would hire her after that. Her name was tainted. The video went viral, not the intimate parts but the dinner party confrontation. Someone had filmed it on their phone and posted it online. Within a week it had 10 million views. Marcus tried to call me, text me, email me. I blocked him on everything. Emily sent me a letter. A long, rambling apology explaining that she'd fallen in love with him, that it had started innocently, that she never meant to hurt me. I burned it without reading past the first page. Sarah told me that Marcus and Emily tried to continue their relationship after everything came out. They're living together, she said, disgust clear in her voice. In a tiny apartment on the bad side of town, she's working as a waitress. He's trying to start a new business, but no one will work with him. I felt nothing hearing that, no satisfaction, no pity, just nothing. I threw myself into my new job. Linda had been right, I was good at this, I'd always been good at it. Within 6 months I was promoted to executive director. I started seeing a therapist to work through the trauma. Dr. Morrison helped me understand that what Marcus and Emily did wasn't just betrayal. It was a violation of every trust, every boundary, every principle of decency. You didn't deserve this, she told me in one session. You need to hear that, you were a good wife, a good mother. What they did was their choice, their moral failing, not yours. It took me a long time to believe that. I also started dating again, eventually. Nothing serious, just meeting people, remembering what it felt like to be valued and respected. One man, David, asked me on our 3rd date why I'd gotten divorced. I told him the truth, all of it. He was quiet for a long moment, then he said, "That's one of the most horrible things I've ever heard. I'm so sorry that happened to you." "Thank you," I said. "But can I tell you something?" he continued. "The way you handled it, standing up for yourself, exposing them, refusing to be a victim, that takes incredible strength. You're kind of amazing." I cried that night, happy tears for the first time in months. It's been a year now since that dinner party, since the night I destroyed them both. Marcus's new business failed. Last I heard, he's working as a consultant for a small firm, making a fraction of what he used to make. Emily moved to another state. Sarah heard she's engaged to someone, some guy who apparently doesn't know about her past. I wonder if she'll tell him. I wonder if she's capable of honesty now. I don't think about them much anymore. They don't deserve the space in my head. I'm focused on my future now. My career is flourishing. I bought a beautiful condo downtown with the divorce settlement. I have good friends, a good therapist, and a good life. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled things, if I regret the public humiliation, the scorched earth approach. I don't. They made their choices in secret, in the dark, betraying me every single day for 6 months. I simply brought their choices into the light. And I made sure everyone knew exactly who they really were. Some people might say I should have handled it privately, with dignity, with class. But here's what I learned. Dignity is overrated when someone is stabbing you in the back. Class is wasted on people who have none themselves. They wanted to destroy my life while I smiled and cooked their dinners. I gave them exactly what they deserved. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. Because at the end of the day, I'm not the villain in this story. I'm the woman who refused to be a victim. I'm the woman who took back her power. I'm the woman who survived. And that's worth more than any marriage, any family, any life built on lies. I sleep soundly at night now, No nightmares, no regrets, no what-ifs. Just peace. And the knowledge that Marcus and Emily will never, ever forget what they lost. Because they didn't just lose me. They lost their reputations, their careers, their social standing, their dignity. They lost everything. And I gained my life back. That's what I call justice. So to any woman out there going through something similar, wondering if she should stay quiet, if she should handle things maturely, if she should protect the people who betrayed her. Don't. Burn it all down. Expose them. Take everything. And walk away with your head held high. You deserve better. You deserve justice. And you deserve a life free from people who treat your love like it means nothing. I got mine. And it was worth every single second.